Trick or treat. I got a popcorn ball. I got a fudge ball. I got a pack of gum. I got a rock.
It's morphin' time! Dragon Sword! Mastodon!
Pterodactyl!
Triceratops!
Saber-tooth tiger!
Tyrannosaurus!
Yeah!
Ah, that's one. One bat. Two bats. Three fabulous flyers.
What's going on, guys, and welcome back to another Top 10 here for you on InformOverload. I'm your host, Jared Bronstein, and as always, make sure you guys are not only subscribed to our channel, but ring that bell so you can always be informed when we post our newest video. Today, we'll be looking at the top 10 dark children's shows theories that will ruin your childhood, the way they just ruined mine. We also did a top 10 dark SpongeBob SquarePants theories, so check that out if you guys haven't already seen it. And why not use SpongeBob to start our list off? So coming in at number 10, Bikini Bottom is the result of nuclear testing. Believe it or not, there's actually some truth behind this theory. Bikini Bottom is actually named after Bikini Atoll, which is a part of the Marshall Islands. Located in the middle of the Pacific Ocean, thousands of miles from Hawaii, the US conducted 23 nuclear tests during the Cold War era, more specifically between 1946 and 1958. In 1954, the US government dropped a massive hydrogen bomb, which they say was the equivalent to 1,000 sized Hiroshima bombs. Aside from the damage, it filled the island and the surrounding areas with unfathomable amounts of radiation, and the theory here is that SpongeBob and his friends are all mutant creations thanks to all that radiation. At number 9, Charlie Brown is dying from cancer. Yeah, this list is getting pretty dark pretty quick. Sorry guys. So the theory here is that he's pretty much gone bald because he's gone through cancer treatments, more specifically chemo, that has caused his hair to fall out. His overreactive imagination is due to the cancer itself or the possible treatment he's getting, and the reason things never work out in his favor is because he's come to terms with his inevitable death, and he's pretty much given up on life the way he feels life has given up on him. At number 8, the Fresh Prince is dead. The lovable family that Will moves in with, well, I guess they're also dead as well. As I'm sure many of you know, the storyline to the show is that Will gets beat up by a couple guys in the basketball court in Philadelphia and is sent to Bel Air to live with his aunt and uncle because his mom is afraid it'll happen again. But the theory here is that Will was actually beaten to death, and that cab ride he takes is actually a lift to heaven. Now, I can get behind this one because my dad is from Philadelphia. I've been there a handful of times, and although it's a beautiful city and, you know, go Eagles, obviously, there are some pretty tough guys down there. And I'm not just talking about the basketball courts. If you wear an opposing jersey to an Eagles game, you're definitely in for a beating. Let's just hope when Will got beat up, he wasn't wearing a Cowboys jersey, because then I definitely believe this theory. Coming in at number 7, Winnie the Pooh and all of his friends represent psychological disorders. Pooh suffers from ADHD and OCD, as well as an impulsive disorder, which is why he's so obsessed with honey and counting things so often. Owl is dyslexic, Tigger has a very severe case of ADHD, Piglet is always anxious, so he suffers from some sort of anxiety disorder, of course, and the most obvious, Eeyore is clinically depressed. We also can't forget about Christopher Robin, who is schizophrenic, which is how he made up all these characters in his head in the first place. To make matters worse, the Canadian Medical Association were the ones who actually diagnosed all these characters in the first place. So you can thank them for ruining a big part of your childhood. Number 6, Ed, Edd, and Eddy are all in Purgatory. Now, there's a very long explanation behind this one, which would literally take close to 10 minutes alone to explain, so I'm going to focus on key points here. The boys all have green or blue tongues because they're dead, which is what happens when you die, due to the fact that there's no blood circulating. There's a lack of adults or other children in the show, and early on in the show, there was a lack of seasons. It seemed to always be summer. The entire show takes place in the same area of their cul-de-sac, which is their form of purgatory, an area that is always staying the same. If you guys want a much more in-depth version of any of these theories, you guys gotta let us know in the comments down below. But I mean, we're a news channel, not so much a theory channel. I mean, you know, we make top 10s every now and then for fun, but like, I don't know, I don't think we should really get into these theories too much. Moving on to number 5. The Power Rangers are children soldiers fighting against their will. Just stick with me here, it gets much worse. In the 1980s, children in Iran were given plastic keys and were told they were keys to go to heaven. They were then sent out into minefields to make sure it was clear for the adult soldiers to walk across. Unfortunately, stuff like this still goes down today, just in different forms. Now, the Power Rangers are of course older children, I guess teenagers, but they're still called upon to go to war with the evil Rita. This isn't their war to fight, but they're given uniforms, magic powers, and gadgets to help fight them in this war that they somehow got sucked into. Although they usually have a happy ending, it's the principle that these innocent teens are pretty much forced to fight a war against an entity that they have absolutely nothing to do with. At number 4, Sesame Street's Count Von Count preys on children. Of course, the inspiration for the vampire was Dracula, or at least it seems that way, and the theory claims that the reason why the children on the show changed so often is because Count was feasting on them. I mean, I think they just grew up and they weren't staying the the same age, you know. But we'll go with it. More specifically, he was feasting on their blood. The adults in the show don't change too often, and that's because they are his slaves. Either that, or they worship him as a god and want to keep him happy. Regardless, it's a bad situation, so let's move on. Number 3, the Fairly Odd Parents represent medicine. Think about it. When Timmy is sad about something, he makes a wish, and his 2 fairy friends, Wanda and Cosmo, grant that wish to cheer him up. However, that wish usually has severe consequences, more specifically when his wish is a little selfish. The theory here is that the 2 fairy godparents are actually metaphors for Zoloft and Prozac, 2 types of antidepressants that boost your serotonin. When he gets a wish granted that doesn't go his way and he has to go on a crazy adventure to save the world from ending, it adds excitement to his boring old regular life. To add to this, when Timmy abuses their powers, bad things happen. When you abuse prescriptions, bad things happen. You guys see where I'm going here? Number 2, the Rugrats was all in Angelica's head. So apparently Tommy was a stillborn. That's why their father Stu is always making toys, which is his way of coping of losing his son. Chucky's father is always a nervous wreck because Chucky and his mother died in an accident, and the twins Phil and Lil exist because the DeVilles, their parents, had an abortion, leading to Angelica to be unsure whether it would have been a boy or a girl, so she figured, why not make both? But this one is definitely not as dark as number 1. In at number 1, the Smurfs are white supremacists. Yep, apparently the little blue friendly things we all grew up to love are really a racist, Nazi-like group of creatures. The evidence here is that they all wear white pointy hats, whereas their leader wears a red pointed hat, which is almost identical to the KKK. The show's villain Gargamel is portrayed as a big-nosed, hairy, money-loving guy who has a cat named Israel, which is the name of the angel of death in Jewish tradition. For those of you that missed on the other stereotypes, Jews are known to have big noses, be quite hairy, and there's a very common belief they're greedy or money hungry. So, not sure the story here, but it's quite convincing if you ask me. And that's what we got for the top 10 dark children's show theories that will ruin your childhood. I know it ruined mine. Let us know your thoughts on this list in the comments down below. If you guys like this video, give it a thumbs up to let us know. And of course, make sure you guys are subscribed and have ring that bell notification so you guys never miss out on a video from the IO crew. I've been your host, Jared Bronstein. Feel free to connect with myself and the entire IO team on social media. We got links in the descriptions right down below. And until next time, well, just don't think too hard about some of those kids shows you grew up watching, I guess.